Hey y'all, it's because Mama said so when we're making cinnamon rolls two ways. Cinnamon and honeysuckle cream cheese. Good morning, y'all. It is the next morning. My dough has sat covered in the refrigerator overnight. I'm going to give the countertop a little mama scrubbing before we roll out our rolls on it. I'm going to pull the dough out of the refrigerator. It's going to be nice and cold. You can work with the dough right after adding that final cup of flour. I could have done them last night, but I really like to work with cold dough. I feel like it's easier to work with. And you'll see as I'm rolling them, even though it's cold, it still sometimes is a little bit tricky and likes to get a little bit sticky on me. But we're just going to liberally flour that countertop so that way our dough doesn't stick, and we're going to remove it. And see how it's kind of sticky. It's so funny because sometimes I do this dough and it comes out a little bit stiffer, and sometimes it comes out a little stickier. I don't know, maybe it has to do with the humidity. Who knows? My mom all used to say that she couldn't make different things on days when it was rainy because the humidity made it difficult to do. So maybe that's how it is with this cinnamon roll dough. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and roll this out to a large rectangle shape, and then we're going to start the process of making our 2 different rolls. After I get this about 1/4 of an inch thick rolled and in a nice rectangular shape, you can see it's almost taking up my whole countertop there. I'm going to cut it in half. And on one half, we're going to do our classic cinnamon rolls, which are just a, cinnamon sugar base. And then on the other side, we are going to do honeysuckle cream cheese cinnamon rolls. And the center of them will have a honeysuckle jelly that I made last summer. We're going to melt 2 sticks of butter, and I'm also going to put that honeysuckle jelly in the microwave also to soften it up a bit. Once those 2 sticks of butter are done, I'm going to pour about 3/4 of them on top of this dough and spread it out. The rest of it will get poured into the bottom of the baking dish to grease it. But you can see here I am just evenly spreading the butter on there, and then I will go ahead and cut this in half, and we'll begin to do our 2 different rolls. This first side, we are going to add about 1/2 cup to 3/4 cup of sugar on top of our butter. We just want to make sure that when we put the sugar on top, that it is absorbed by all of the butter. And then I'm going to liberally apply cinnamon. I am not stingy with cinnamon on my cinnamon rolls. I think they're cinnamon rolls for a reason. So I am very liberal with the cinnamon on these. And I'll go ahead and sprinkle that on top. And then you'll see I'll move to the second roll that we're making today. I've got my honeysuckle jelly out of the microwave, and I'm just going to spread this as evenly as possible over this butter mixture. There's a lot of sugar in the jelly, so I'm not going to add any extra, but I'm going to spread it out as even as I can. This is about 1 cup of jelly, and any jelly will work for this. You can do orange marmalade, you can do strawberry jam, anything that you want to do. I just happen to have made some honeysuckle jelly over the summer that I needed to use, and I actually in the description put the video to the tutorial on how to make different flour jellies if you want to do that yourself. As you can see, I'm going to do a tight roll on this, and it gets quite messy and it gets quite difficult to hold the filling in, so just don't give up, don't quit. Just know that they're going to be rustic looking. They're not going to be perfect looking. Plus, this is a different type of roll that I normally do. I normally just do the cinnamon, but I'm experimenting with different flavors and different ideas. And as long as you're going to make this much dough, you might as well make a couple different kinds to kick up the variety. Once we're done cutting these and filling our pans, I'm going to set them over on top of the stove while it's preheating to 375 degrees, and I'm going to cover them with plastic wrap and let them rise for about 20 to 30 minutes. If you leave them for a little bit longer, it won't hurt them either. Once I'm done with that, we'll go ahead and put them in the oven. The recipe says for about 17 to 20 minutes, but I think I made my rolls just a little thicker than I normally do, and I found that I actually had to do mine for 30 minutes in order to make sure that the center was completely done. Before you pull them from the oven, just take a butter knife and kind of split the middle ones open and just make sure that they're not still too doughy. Also realize that they will continue to bake when they come out of the oven. Now we're going to go ahead and start our two different frostings. The first frosting we're going to do is a brown butter frosting, which is so good. I'm just going to take the butter and the brown sugar, and we're going to mix it over medium-high heat until the butter is melted and the sugar is completely combined with the butter. Then I will add just about 2 to 3 tablespoons of milk, and we'll stir that until it comes to a light boil. Then we'll turn it and take it off the heat and add our vanilla and our salt, and then we'll set it aside for 10 minutes to cool before we add the powdered sugar. In the meantime, we'll be starting on our cream cheese frosting here in a second while that cools. In a stand mixer, we're going to go ahead and start our cream cheese frosting. I'm going to add 4 ounces of softened cream cheese with a whisk attachment. I'll go ahead and on high speed, go ahead and whisk that until it starts to get a little bit creamy. From there, I'm going to add about 8 ounces of powdered sugar, but I'll add them 4 ounces at a time. And in between, I'll add about 2 tablespoons of milk in order to thin out the consistency. I'll also add a little bit of vanilla and just a pinch of salt to offset some of that sweetness. Now that our butter and brown sugar mixture has cooled down a little bit, I'm going to sift about 2 to 3 cups of powdered sugar into the mix. I want to stir it, and I want it to be thick, but not so thick that it won't drizzle off the end of the spoon. I'll show you what it looks like here in the end. Of course, the recipes are always at the end of the video, plus I'll have the recipe down in the description because there's a link in there for the flour jelly I don't want you to miss. Plus, there's a bonus glaze recipe if you prefer a little bit of a lighter frosting on your cinnamon rolls. Here's what they look like coming out of the oven. They're steaming up my camera, but I'm gonna let them sit for a little bit, about 10 minutes before I frost them. These turned out so good and they smell amazing. And the honeysuckle cream cheese is absolutely delicious. Of course, the recipes are at the end. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, take care of yourself. You are precious cargo. And why? Because Mama said so.